Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Those two rays were visions, and the owner of these visions was flying in the sky and surveying the prairie. The two visions shone downwards, lighting up the prairie in a golden glow. The vision swept past this small village at the foot of the mountain before leaving in the distance. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief and opened the door to look up to the sky. He saw the two stars shining pillars of light along their way, which covered a radius of 2 to 3 miles as they went further and further away. I wonder how is senior brother Ba Shan doing? He was indeed a little worried. The people who had just passed by should be the strong practitioners of Roland's Golden Palace on the level of the Shaman Kings. As they searched their way over, this Shaman King didn't discover this village, because the green bull did not leave any trails, and there were no lamps lighted up in this hidden in the forest village. People here were all elderly people, and they all went to bed very early. However, for this Shaman King to be able to come search for them, it meant that Chancellor Ba Shan couldn't stop him, which could most likely be either Chancellor Ba Shan was injured, or he was being surrounded. Let's go to sleep. Qin Mu threw a small jade bottle to Ling Yuxiu and said, "Sister, dragon's saliva is surprisingly effective to the wounds on your body. You should smear some on your body first before turning into bed. We'll leave immediately in the morning." Ling Yuxiu nodded her head and went into the room. After a moment, this girl opened the door and popped her head out. With her beautiful black hair hanging down in the front of her chest, she revealed half of her smooth shoulder with the rest of her body hidden behind the door. She said shyly, "Cowherd, there are some places which I can't see, so it's inconvenient for me to smear. I'll help you." Hu Linga rushed over excitedly and smiled, "I'll help you smear, there's no need to bother, young master." It was a night without words. The next day before daybreak, Qin Mu got up to do some stretching. The elderly in the village got up too, and the sound of feeding chickens could be heard. There were also sounds of people chasing the sheep out of the sheep's pen, sounds of elderly greeting each other. For a moment, Qin Mu thought he had returned to disabled elderly village in great ruins. "Little couple, have you woken up? Breakfast is ready, you can come to my house to eat." The old granny's voice came from outside. Qin Mu acknowledged and proceeded to wake up Ling Yuxiu and the green bull before carrying Hu Linga out from the bed to walk out of this dilapidated house. At this moment, a voice came from outside the village, "There's a village here, let us ask for directions." "Ask for what directions? It's impossible for me to be lost." A voice which was brimming with anger sneered, "I've been there before and blocked the gate for 100 days, how could I be lost?" Qin Mu was stunned and gave an unbelievable look as he rushed to the village's entrance at once. "There's no harm in asking. You said you remembered the way, yet we ended up walking round and round the prairie for such a long time. I'm not like Cripple, that wretch who can run so fast." Qin Mu came to the village's entrance with quick steps, and saw a blind man walking over with a bamboo cane. Beside him was a half-body old man with a stubbly beard, carrying 2 pig slaughtering knives on his back, making him look fiendish. Qin Mu was surprised and delighted. He hurriedly ran over and tightly hugged the half-body old man up without explanation. He then threw the half-body old man aside and tightly hugged the dry and thin old man. "Butcher, haven't I said we went the wrong way?" That blind man immediately turned his head away to avoid Qin Mu. He struggled and looked at the stupefied butcher, who was thrown in one corner. "You brought me to the region beyond the Great Wall, and look what happened. You brought me back to great ruins, we're back at our village. Mua, let go, I'm going to suffocate. Where's village chief? Is Granny back as well? Apothecary, stop hiding, I saw you." After a moment, Blind and Butcher greeted the elderly people in the village. When the elderly in the village saw that they were even older than them and disabled, they all admired endlessly and secretly exclaimed they were old yet strong. Ling Yuxiu came out from her room after she finished washing her hair, and jumped in shock when she saw the 2 elders. She immediately ran back into her room with her heart thumping wildly. "They are those 2 elders that scared me and little General Qin on Surging River that day. Qin Mu avoided all the elderly in the village, and took out the sack on his waist. Pushing up the bottom of the sack, he reached in to rummage the items inside, pulling out 2 legs before tugging out the remaining half of the body and said, "Grandpa Butcher, is this golden lower body the one you've lost?" "No. This isn't my body." Butcher took a careful look at this golden lower body, and used his knife to give a slice after a moment. Touching the golden blood that was flowing out, he said suspiciously, "This body seems to be Grand Shaman's. I had fought with this old brat once and I'm very familiar with his blood. This lower body is already more or less dead, making it useless." Qin Mu also went forward to touch the golden blood, which had already half solidified. However, there was still a fire property hidden within it, and a drop of blood was even squirming on his fingertip, trying to enter his body. Qin Mu immediately executed his vital qi, and turned it into vermilion bird vital qi to burn it continuously. He spent quite a great effort before he could evaporate this drop of blood. Since it's the lower body of Grand Shaman, in that case, Grandpa Butcher's lower body should be on Grand Shaman. That old brat actually admires me to that extent. Butcher rubbed his beard, pleased with himself. In that case, are the sons he gave birth his sons or my sons? The beard stubble on his face was like iron spikes, giving off scratching sounds as his hand went over them. The more he thought, the more he became pleased with himself, and couldn't help laughing out loud. Blind said neither too fast nor too slow, "If he really gave birth to a son, or even a bunch of sons, are you going to acknowledge them?" Butcher was stumped and his face turned bitter straight away. The pleased look he had earlier had totally vanished. With one sentence from Blind, Butcher became dazed. Blind then asked Qin Mu, "Mua, why are you here?" Qin Mu told them about the entire story, and Blind cried out, "You actually went to block the gate of Roland's golden palace. Pretty big guts." "The reason I have accompanied Butcher out is also to go to Roland's golden palace. We have found out that Butcher's lower body was snatched away by Roland's golden palace. Butcher said even if we find it, he doesn't know if it could be reattached." Qin Mu smiled, "If the lower body is dead, it's definitely impossible. But since Grandpa Butcher's lower body is on Grand Shaman's body, he definitely attached it to his body when it was still alive. As long as we find Grand Shaman and sever his lower body, I can help Grandpa Butcher reattach his body." Blind gave a smile and said, "That's a small matter. Butcher, this wretch can finally be complete. He didn't even have a bird in the past." Butcher flew into a fury. "I can transform my vital qi into my body. What do you mean I have no bird? I can pee and shit just fine." The two of them started to quarrel again, giving Qin Mu a headache. Qin Mu immediately said, "Senior brother Ba Shan is still trapped in Roland's golden palace, and his situation is unknown." "Grandpa's?" Butcher shook his head. "No need to care about that rascal. He lacks a door on his mouth and blurt out anything and everything without ever stopping. I had met him in eternal peace, and he still hadn't died from saying the wrong things. I dislike his nagging and was afraid of being annoyed by him, therefore, I had left." Even though he had said it that way, he had wanted to leave for Roland's golden palace immediately. He was still worried about the safety of Chancellor Ba Shan after all. Hu Ling'er and Ling Yuxiu had already finished packing up, and Ling Yuxiu went to that old granny and elder's house to leave a few gold ingots. Even though they had only stayed for a night, they had received their hospitality. Furthermore, the elders in the village were all very old and have no young people in the village. Leaving some money for them would help them get through their later years. Butcher looked at Ling Yuxiu, clearly forgetting this 7th princess as he smiled. "Rascal has good eyesight, this girl ain't half bad." Ling Yuxiu mustered her courage and went forward to greet him, and Blind, the green bull, had run out in the morning to graze, he's not yet back. "Let us go and find him." Everyone left the village, and saw a huge green bull grazing on the grass of the prairie. As he grazed, his tears streamed down like rain while muttering, "Ever since I followed Old Master, I've always been eating vegetables and never grass. Old Master even built dozens of vegetable field to plant flowers for me." Hu Ling'er scampered forward and said, "Bull 2, stop crying. Your old master is here, there's hope for your old master." The face of the green bull twitched when he saw Blind and Butcher, who was only left with his upper body, doubting their abilities. Everyone got on the back of the bull and Qin Mu said, "Don't worry, Green Bull, they are very powerful. Let us go to Roland's Golden Palace as soon as possible to save senior brother Ba Shan." The Green Bull could only sprint back on the way he came from. Ling Yuxiu looked back and the small village, which was hidden in the forest, already couldn't be seen. Those few elders had said that the few khans beyond the Great Wall are currently fighting each other. This means that the people beyond the Great Wall also feel threatened by the rise of Eternal Peace Empire. Ling Yuxiu composed herself and said, "They are also thinking of building a unified empire to gather all the strength to face Eternal Peace Empire. This Khan of Barbarian Di Empire should be a great leader with a great ambition. If he was to unify the Great Wall, I'm afraid there would be trouble for our Eternal Peace Empire. Especially now that our Eternal Peace is frequently having civil unrest." Qin Mu nodded his head. This must be the intention of Roland's Golden Palace. Roland's Golden Palace is the sacred ground after all. If they support the Khan of Barbarian Di Empire, it's not hard for them to unify the Great Wall. I reckon Roland's Golden Palace is also hesitant as they are scared of grooming another Eternal Peace Empire, making them lose control over the region beyond Great Wall. This is why Barbarian Di Empire has yet to unify the region beyond Great Wall until now. Ling Yuxiu gave it some thoughts and it was indeed reasonable. However, the three biggest sacred grounds in Eternal Peace Empire, Dao Sect, Great Thunderclap Monastery, Heavenly Devil Cult, did not support Eternal Peace Empire. Not only did they not support, there were still sects creating troubles for them. If Barbarian Di Empire was to receive the full support from Roland's Golden Palace, they would probably have the power to invade Eternal Peace Empire. The Green Bull sprinted for almost half a day when Blind suddenly said, "Halt." The Green Bull immediately halted. Blind pointed in the southwest direction and said, "Go over there. I can see people fighting over there." The Green Bull was bewildered. Blind saw people fighting over there. How did he see them? However, it was not good for him to question Blind, so he could only change his direction and sprinted southwest. Ling Yuxiu was also slightly puzzled and she looked at Qin Mu. Qin Mu explained, "Grandpa Blind has the best eyesight in our village." Blind was proud of himself. Ling Yuxiu looked at his eyes and saw his eye sockets being completely empty and had nothing inside, making her thought to herself, why is Blind the one with the best eyesight? What the logic in this? Not long after the Green Bull had changed his direction, they suddenly saw a knife light cutting across a mountain. However, due to the long distance, they could only see weak rays. Only then did they admire Blind endlessly. Ling Yuxiu was between bewildered, he really is blind. Butcher also exclaimed, Blind's eyesight is really good. Qin Mu knew the ability of Blind's godmind's eyes very well, therefore, he was long used to it. Even though Blind's eyes can't see, what he can see was much more than the others. He stood up and looked into the distance. There were still rays of golden light surrounding that mountain as they revolved around it. The Green Bull sprinted with all his might and got closer and closer to that mountain. Not long later, the rays of light became thicker and thicker as they floated to and fro around the mountain like streamers surrounding the mountain. When they got even closer, they could see numerous things in the golden lights. Those were the divine arts of the shaman kings, and there were curved knives hidden within the golden lights. In some golden lights, there were golden humans and in others, there were golden dragons rolling inside. The power of the shaman kings was astonishing, and only shamans, who had cultivated to celestial being realm, could be known as shaman kings. However, Roland's Golden Palace was the sacred ground of the Great Wall after all. Those shaman kings that had given chase were mostly of life and death realm, and there was even a cult master level existence that was on divine bridge realm. The Green Bull sprinted forward, and was only 3 miles away from that mountain. Qin Mu took another look and saw that there was a shaman king in each of the 8 directions around the mountain. The bird-head human body shaman king on the east was holding onto a circular mirror. That mirror was strange and had 12 snow-white bones growing out from the mirror. With the mirror in his hand, a ray of golden light shone from the mirror. The leopard-head human body shaman king on the west had a scepter in his hand. On the top of the scepter, there was something like a tail wrapping around the scepter which was currently moving. It was as long as the scepter. Meanwhile, on the tip of the scepter, there was a golden skull that was shooting out golden lights from its eyes. On the south side, there was a three-headed golden man. He had 3 wolves' heads. On the north side, the shaman king had a human head and 2 wings on his back. Golden swords continued to grow out from both of the wings, and turned into sword currents, which attacked towards the center of the mountain. Meanwhile, the shaman kings on the southeast, southwest, northeast, northwest were also of all shapes and sizes. There were some that grew a beast head and 8 arms, some that grew 6 legs, some that grew wings, some that grew more eyes and even had eyes on their palms. Even though Qin Mu had seen Grand Shaman Ruda scriptures, he couldn't help exclaiming in admiration at the weirdness and power of this technique, as he looked at such a scene. At the middle of the mountain, knife light slashed vertically and horizontally to block the divine arts that were coming in all directions. Huge rocks came falling down time to time from the top of the mountain. The rocks were as big as courtyard houses. In this situation, people couldn't recognize them clearly from far away. They could roughly see items like dust falling down, and only when they came close could they only know how huge those clouds of dust were. The mountain was already shaved into a bare pillar by the divine arts of Chancellor Ba Shan and the 8 shaman kings. Only the top of the mountain where Chancellor Ba Shan was standing on still had some greenery left. Butcher took a look and gave a sigh of relief before smiling. Big Mouth still isn't dead. Let us return. Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The green bull rushed forward with even more vigor. Before they had yet to reach the bottom of the mountain, Butcher suddenly rose into the air and a knife light split the sky with an incomparable brightness. Qin Mu raised his head to take a look and felt that it turned darker after the light disappeared. It was as if the light was too bright and left a knife mark in their eyes, yet it also looked like it was too sharp and had sliced open the sky. He couldn't determine which one it was. Heaven Khan. An astonished cry sounded out as a human head fell from the sky. There was also a headless shaman king still flapping his bird wings in the sky, shining his golden light everywhere. It was human head bird body shaman king on the north. Among all of the shaman kings present, only he was the cult master level existence of divine bridge realm, yet he was assassinated by Butcher when he closed in on him and killed him with a knife. Butcher was from the battle technique school, and one could well imagine what would happen if he closed in on someone. Butcher landed steadily on the back of the green bull and ordered it, "Your old master is fine now, he'll just have to suffer a little more injuries, and he will be able to slaughter his way out." Green bull, bring us to Roland's golden palace. The green bull hesitated and asked, "Aren't old master going to rescue old master? Old master always talked about how good you were. Why should I rescue him? For him to annoy me?" Butcher shook his head. "It was very peaceful for me when I stayed in the village for the past few years. When I think of getting nagged by this guy, my headache would act up. You should go as I ordered. If you continue to be long-winded, we'll have beef tonight. Do you know what's my job in the village?" The green bull shuddered in fear and dared not to say a word. This bull was very clever, and had long realized he was a butcher that slaughtered pigs and cows. "Master." Chancellor Ba Shan's voice came from the mountaintop, and it was obvious he was injured since his breath was inadequate. He cried out in surprise, "Master, it is you. I knew you didn't die. You had left me behind in eternal peace for so many years, and ran away yourself to live a carefree life. How are you going to make up to me? I have a lot of things to tell you." "Quickly run," Butcher said. The green bull immediately ran towards the direction of Roland's golden palace. Chancellor Ba Shan was about to rush out of that mountain when he got suppressed by the other 7 shaman kings, making him have no choice but to go back to the mountain. The 7 shaman kings now felt they were holding a wolf by the ears. The 8 of them had worked together to suppress Chancellor Ba Shan, and had decided to refine him to death. Never did they expect that Heaven Khan, who was rumored to have died many years ago, to resurface, and killed the strongest shaman king among them with a knife. They had originally thought that Heaven Khan would make a move on them, and Chancellor Ba Shan's spirits were raised as he used his strongest attacks to delay them, making them unable to run, scaring them out of their wits. And now, Heaven Khan had actually left Chancellor Ba Shan here and escaped on a bull. Chancellor Ba Shan was also at a total loss. Suddenly, he came to the realization and started to curse the old man. It took the green bull almost half a day to bring them back to the weak waters. Butcher looked at Blind and said, "Blind, you and Mua shall accompany me up the mountain. Now that my lower body is missing, I can't win that old fellow." "All right." Blind jumped down from the back of the bull. Qin Mu made Ling Yuxiu, who Linga and the green bull stay, and said, "We'll be right back." Ling Yuxiu nodded her head, "Be careful." Butcher came to the front of the weak waters lake and shook his head. Ba Shan, this brat still hasn't improved after all these years. He couldn't even move this lake away. He took in a deep breath, and the trio behind him couldn't help becoming dumbstruck. They saw the surroundings surging like a gathering storm towards this elder in front of them, who only had the upper half of his body. Even the clouds in the sky were swept over by the surging gale. The prairie had a high elevation and the clouds were much lower. Even so, they were also 10,000 feet above them, and this elder was so overpowered that he actually managed to suck all the white clouds in the sky into his stomach in one breath. This is the legendary strongest practitioner of the battle techniques school. Ling Yuxiu's mind shuddered. Ever since Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor gathered all the strong practitioners of battle techniques school to discuss Tao, the strong practitioners of the battle techniques had either died or escaped, and there were also some who went into seclusion. However, after that discourse, there were no more strong practitioners standing at the pinnacle of battle techniques. The flesh body was what battle techniques school was strong in. There was a similar trait in all of the top battle techniques practitioners, which was one part of their bodies had already become a god. He had no need to deliberately execute divine art, as every motion they did was a divine art. It was obvious that this elder who only had his upper body was such an existence. Butcher took in a deep breath, and completely sucked in all the clouds in the surroundings, before giving out a blow. Whoosh! The weak waters lake in front of them was suddenly lifted up, and the waves grew higher and higher, as though a sea had become vertical. The vertical sea rapidly retreated, and was literally blown into the snow mountains in an instant, filling up all the valleys in the snow mountains. In front of them, the lake was dried and even the bones in the lake were blown away. Even though the bottom of the lake was still slightly wet, there was no mud as the mud was scraped off cleanly. Qin Mu opened his heaven's eyes to have a look, and he saw that the veil-covering lake had also vanished, without a trace left from Butcher's breath. The top experts of the battle techniques school didn't know the spell divine arts to change the land, but with such an incomparably strong body which could change the land and weather, why do they need spell divine arts? If one could have the body of the battle techniques school, the sword mastery of sword control school, and the divine arts of spells school, won't they be invincible? Qin Mu blinked his eyes and followed after Butcher. What he cultivated was Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique, and this technique was good in everything. It was just that this technique had no divine arts, no body refinement techniques, and no sword skills. It was also because he was cultivating Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique. Butcher didn't impart his body refinement technique to him so as not to hold back his advancement in cultivation. Actually, everyone in the village had his own unique technique, but none of them had taught it to him. Roland's golden palace broke into a commotion when they saw Butcher blowing away the weak waters lake in front of Roland's golden palace in a breath. How could such an unimaginably exceptional divine art not make the hearts of the shaman kings tremble? In front of the sacred hall, Grand Shaman stood there with his scepter. 2 rays of golden light shone out from his eyes and landed on the 3 people who were walking on the bottom of the lake, causing his eyes to twitch. He was the cult leader of the Golden Palace. Because he envied Butcher's strong body, after he knew Butcher got cut down by raising his knife towards the heavens, he infiltrated Eternal Peace and exterminated that small sect which had snatched Butcher's lower body. He knew very well that Butcher's body surpassed his body, therefore, he had cut off his own lower body without hesitation and attached Butcher's to his body. And now, his nightmare had turned into a reality. That Heaven Khan had not yet died. He had lived on and now he was coming for his lower body. The corners of Grand Shaman's eyes twitched furiously, and he turned to walk back into the sacred hall. In the hall, there were golden skeletons sitting on the shrines. There were human-shaped bones and there were also beast-shaped bones. There were a total of 18 shrines and 17 of them had golden skeletons in them. On the 18th shrine, there was a skin and bones elder with a messy appearance sitting on it as if he was dead. Grandmaster, Heaven Khan is here. Grand Shaman leaned on his scepter and knelt down on one knee while lowering his head. That elder who was as thin as a match opened up his sharp eyes and his voice was like an owl. Where's the sacred child of reincarnation, which I asked you to find? Golden sweats built up on Grand Shaman's golden forehead, as he said tartly, I haven't found him yet. That messy elder shouted with a sharp voice, without the sacred child of reincarnation, won't my reincarnation for the past 17 lifetimes be all for naught? I am only half a step from becoming God, half a step. Grand Shaman lowered his head deeply, and didn't dare to say a word. That messy elder said sternly, with me around, Heaven Knife won't dare to make things difficult for you, but I won't easily exhaust my life to help you. Return his lower body to him, and immediately find the sacred child of reincarnation for me. Grand Shaman was startled and suddenly, a flash passed his waist. It was too late for him to defend against. Grand Shaman kept silent for a moment before opening his mouth again. Junior brother Gyatso, come in. A shaman king heard him and immediately came into the sacred hall before bowing. Grand Shaman, what's the matter? Grand Shaman picked up the scepter and poked through his head. He then severed his lower body and attached it to his own body. Without a ripple on his expression, he bowed and said, Grandmaster, disciple ask to be excused. That messy elder closed his eyes. If you can't find the sacred child of reincarnation, you know the consequences. Grand Shaman bowed and retreated out of the sacred hall with Butcher's lower body. When he walked out of the sacred hall, crunching sounds came from inside the hall, as if there was something eating Shaman King Gyatso's body. Grand Shaman's eyes twitched and a sharp pain came from his waist. He had roughly attached Shaman King Gyatso's body to his and used his magic power to connect them together. However, their flesh, as well as their bones, tendons, meridians, channels, essence, chi, and blood were not connected to each other. He would have to use secret medicine to fuse them together, and turned Gyatso's body into his own body. Ever since he attained Butcher's body, he had thought he could finally advance one more step in his lifetime. Never would he had expected Butcher to be still alive and come look him up. Furthermore, since Grandmaster's corporeal body had withered, he didn't dare to engage in a life and death struggle against Butcher, making him have no choice but to give up Butcher's lower body. Even though Shaman King Gyatso wasn't weak, he still couldn't be compared to Grand Shaman's previous body. If he wanted to cultivate back to his previous realm, he didn't know how long he would have to spend. Grand Shaman bore the pain and brought Butcher's lower body down the mountain. Qin Mu had already come up the mountain along with Butcher, and blind thus they met halfway up the mountain. Grand Shaman placed down Butcher's lower body and greeted, Heaven Khan. Butcher looked at his lower body and then looked at Grand Shaman's waist and shook his head, why bother? I still have to thank you for nurturing my corporeal body for over 200 years and not letting it die. The corners of Grand Shaman's eyes twitched twice. Qin Mu took out that golden lower body and said, Grand Shaman, I'll return your body to you, there's no point in me keeping it. The muscles of Grand Shaman's face twitched as he replied hoarsely, I have no use for it. You can refine it into a treasure. Qin Mu asked in goodwill, I see that your body isn't attached properly. I'm proficient in the art of healing, if Grand Shaman can trust me, I can help you attach it properly. You want to take the chance to harm me? Grand Shaman sneered and brought his lower body to leave. Qin Mu shook his head and sighed, all doctors treat patients like their children. I had planned to use his body as warm-up before helping Grandpa Butcher reattach his body. Butcher smiled, I trust in your medical expertise. If we could go back to find apothecary, and let him do it personally, it would be even better. However, it would take too long to return to Great Ruins. He suddenly shouted, Old fellow, are you still alive? His loud voice reverberated throughout the entire mountain. An ancient and sharp voice came from Roland's golden palace, Don't worry, if Heaven Khan isn't dead yet, how would I be dead? This old ghost is actually still alive. Butcher laughed coldly. I'll make you die sooner or later. Let's go. Qin Mu carried Butcher's lower body, and the three of them went down the mountain. Blind turned back to have a look at the mountain, and seemed to be deep in his thoughts. That person inside is very strong. Butcher let out a sigh and smiled. I reckon I'm not his opponent without my lower body. That's why you have to accompany me here to deal with him. This old fellow has reincarnated 17 times, and lived through 18 lifetimes. His lifespan has probably hit 10,000 years, yet he still doesn't die. I had fought him a few times and he's very powerful. Qin Mu cried out, lived through 18 lifetimes. A lifespan of 10,000 years. How is this possible? How is it not possible? You should have seen gods and devils who have lived much longer than 10,000 years in great ruins, am I right? Actually, there are many scary things in this world. However, you are still young now and can't come into contact with these kinds of existences. Butcher continued, that old thing may not be a devil or god, but he isn't far from them. He knows a lot about the past and many secrets. If he wasn't an enemy, I wouldn't have stood against him. Blind nodded his head. There are indeed some terrifying existences. For example, my eyes. He shook his head and didn't say any more. Qin Mu's heart trembled slightly. Blind's eyes were dug out by someone, but Blind had never told people who exactly did it. What was the secret behind this? When they left Roland's golden palace and regrouped with Ling Yuxiu, they went to a barbarian city on the prairie. Qin Mu bought a few medicinal ingredients in the city, and took out a huge cauldron from his sack. Grandpa Butcher, I would have to boil your lower body first to remove the blood of Grand Shaman, and the shaman poison within it. He poured a huge jar of water into the cauldron and placed the medicinal ingredients into the water one by one. When the water started boiling and gave off medicinal fragrance, he then placed Butcher's body into the water. Hu Linger was worried, would it be cooked? Blind beamed and said, when you smell the fragrance of meat, it would be cooked. Butcher retorted angrily, my body can't even die after getting severed by a god, so how would it be cooked from just a pot of boiling water? After boiling it for some time, Qin Mu observed the color of the medicinal water, and opened up a medicine goblet to pinch out a few black and red toads that were dried up. They were all the same size of a fingernail, and they got scattered into the cauldron. The toads were already dried up, but when they entered the water, they were revived and darted around in the boiling water, absorbing the shaman poison. Not long later, the few toads died from poisoning. Qin Mu changed another cauldron of water, and followed the same steps again, for 9 times to refine the shaman poison out completely. He saw the blood in Butcher's lower body regaining its red color, and his blood came circulated in his blood vessels automatically, as though it was alive. Qin Mu boiled another cauldron of water, and changed over a dozen medicinal ingredients, to excite the activity of his flesh and blood all the way until late at night. Ling Yuxiu and the little fox had already fallen asleep. The green bull had also gone to sleep while Blind was sitting on the floor, snoozing as he leaned on his bamboo cane. Only Qin Mu and Butcher were still guarding beside the cauldron. Qin Mu pulled out his junior protector sword and passed it to Butcher. Grandpa Butcher, I am unable to cut your body, so you would have to do it yourself. You have to cut away the flesh membrane, which has grown over your upper body. There's no need to use your sword. I will use my knife. Butcher pulled out his pig slaughtering knife, and gritted his teeth, as he gave a slice, and sliced off the flesh membrane, which had grown over his wounds. His cultivation was strong, therefore, he was able to use his vital qi immediately to seal his wounds and not let them bleed. Qin Mu pulled out the lower body from the cauldron. The wound on the lower body was still fresh, so he had no need to slice it. Qin Mu took out jade bottles and carefully smeared the dragon's saliva on the cross-sections of the upper and lower body. The moment he smeared the dragon's saliva, he could see flesh sprouting out rapidly as though they were small red worms wiggling non-stop. He didn't connect the two sections of the body immediately, and had instead refined his vital qi into threads to pick out all the tendons and nerves to reconnect them first. The vital qi threads on his palm increased in number as they connected every flesh, every membrane, the intestines, the spines and gradually fused the body together. However, the skin at the waist had yet to grow out. Qin Mu finally applied some dragon's saliva on his wound and the skin also grew back naturally, closing up the wound. He raised his spirits and carried Butcher up and placed him in the medicinal cauldron. He placed the last packet of medicinal ingredients into the cauldron and brought the water to a simmer. In the cauldron, Butcher leaned his arms by the side and suddenly said, "Mua, thanks for all the hard work." Qin Mu shook his head and smiled. "I had learned the art of healing from Grandpa Apothecary for so many years, and all my skills are taught by Grandpa Apothecary. It can't be considered hard. I hope you won't have a messy reputation like Apothecary did." The water slowly came to a boil and Butcher let out a mouthful of white mist. "That's right. I kept seeing you take things out from that little cloth sack. Even this cauldron was taken out from the sack. There's something weird with your sack. Let me have a look." Qin Mu handed over that sack and said, "I picked up this sack in Roland's Golden Palace. I don't know how, but there's an area of 1 acre in the sack, so I have used it to store items." Butcher opened the sack and took a look inside before giving a weird expression. "Mua, it seems like you have picked up quite a lot of items from the treasury of Roland's Golden Palace." Qin Mu's face turned slightly red. "You can learn from Cripple, but you cannot be addicted." Butcher sighed. "Actually, we all have our own bad habits in the village. Cripple likes to steal, Apothecary frequently poisons people and flirts everywhere. As for me, I was too arrogant in the past and raised my knives against the heavens. Blind is supercilious and frivolous, deaf is too proud, mute has his own way of thinking and tells no one about it. Don't talk about village chief, acting like he's a profound mystery, and Granny is a troublemaker. I'm scared that you learned all our bad points." Qin Mu said solemnly, "Don't worry, Grandpa Butcher. Ever since I was out from the village, I have yet created trouble. Patriarch is very pleased with me. In that case, that's good. You can create trouble, but you will need to be able to settle it." Butcher shook the sack and smiled. "I have seen this sack before and it's called Dao Tai sack, and it's made out of Taotia's skin. There should be a pureblood Dao Tai in great ruins, and if our villagers take it on together, we might be able to defeat it. The skin used to make this Dao Tai sack isn't from a pureblood Dao Tai, but its lineage could be considered extremely high. The Dao Tai sack I saw in the past has only 10 feet in diameter, and not many things can be put inside. It should have been made out of the skin of a strange beast, who has the Taotia's bloodline." "So I see." Qin Mu was astonished and immediately asked, "I have seen some houses that don't look big from the outside yet have an enormous space inside. How did this happen?" "That's simple. By grinding the bones of strange beasts that have the Taotia's bloodline and mix it into the cement, mixing it into the paint is fine as well. In this way, the internal space would become bigger." Butcher said, "Dao Tai is a divine beast, a kind of dragon. This divine beast only eat and don't shit, therefore the space in its stomach is very wide. Its skin would be used to create Dao Tai sack, while its bones would be used to build the house. There are many ways to use it, however, there are 2 little pureblood ones." Qin Mu stayed at his side and they both chit-chat, until Qin Mu fell asleep without knowing. When he woke up, he realized that the fire under the cauldron had extinguished. He was about to rekindle the fire when Butcher's voice sounded out from the side, "Mua, there's no need for that. I feel that there are no major problems with my body now." Qin Mu immediately looked back and saw Butcher had already dressed up. He wore a new pant, which was the one Qin Mu had made earlier, after buying some fabric, while he was getting the medicinal ingredients. This elder wore a loose Chinese gown on his upper body, and the messy beard stubbles were all cleanly shaved, making him look refreshed. Butcher looked at him up and down and nodded his head repeatedly. "You have already grown up. We helped you in the past and now you can already help us." That's good, that's good." Blind's voice came from outside, "The one that slaughters pigs. If you continue talking, you won't be able to leave. Your disciple has already caught up." Butcher walked out and said, "There's a hand bone of a god in your Dao Tai sack, which I will be keeping for you. You can't bring this thing around with you, that god is still alive. If you take it with you, it will just bring you disaster." Qin Mu was shocked. the owner of the hand bone is still alive. This video will end here.